big vision, big action, small vision, small action, no vision, no action. That was me.
You are listening to the Property Developer Podcast, your home for tips, ideas, and inspiration to help take your developing to the next level. Now here's your host, Justin Getty.
Hello and welcome to episode 110 of the show. Thanks for joining me. How you doing? I'm well. Got another fantastic show for you today with a guest I've wanted to have on the show since the start, and it was certainly worth the wait. He's coming up shortly. You may have noticed a slightly longer break between episodes coming out, and that's because I've been very busy driving my project to completion. It got to the point where I was so frustrated and annoyed with how long things were taking to wrap up that I decided to go to site every day and push things along so we could finish. So that's what I've been doing for the past month. It's not something I've had to do before and shouldn't really have to do, but the situation called for it. While it's taken up a lot of my time, it's been really good to be on site and see what's been happening. I've learned a hell of a lot and witnessed some strange stuff that goes on with trades and the way people work. The good part about being on site is that I can monitor the standard of work that people are doing and ensure they do a decent job that doesn't have to be fixed. And I can make quick decisions when needed. I think it's easier for everybody when there's somebody there that can say yes or no on the spot. But even when I'm around to monitor works, some defective work still slips through, like a concrete contractor who was repairing some concrete pathway cuts, who decided to use coloured concrete to fill the holes, even though the pathway is natural concrete. And it looked ridiculous. That one was a head spinner and is a costly and timely blunder that is in the process of being rectified. Anyway, we should have an occupancy permit inspection next week, and the builder is pretty close to achieving practical completion, and the site's been cleaned up and is looking really, really good. We also sold a unit last week for a good price, so I was very happy about that, as the campaign had been a bit sluggish. So much so that I brought on a new agent to lead the sales and marketing effort, so fingers crossed he brings some good results in the coming weeks. So it's been a very, very busy month for me, but it has been worth it, with the finish line very much now in sight. If being a property developer still sounds like fun and something you'd like to get into, then be sure to check out my signature online program called the Property Developer Training, where you will discover everything you need to know to start and finish your first small-scale residential property development project. And before you know it, you too could be getting ready to enjoy the practical completion milestone on your first project. Check it all out at www.propertydevelopertraining.com. Or take my free quiz and see how ready you might be to become a property developer at propertydevelopertraining.com/quiz. A quick plug for the socials before we get to our guest. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under the handle of Property Developer Podcast. So if you want to see how things are looking on site, then head there. All right, on to today's guest, Iwan Sunito from One Global Capital. Iwan is a property developer who has enjoyed several decades of success doing some major projects under his former company, Crown Group. Crown developed some significant projects over the years to the value of around $4 billion before Iwan and his business partner had a falling out, which has led to a series of legal battles and ongoing challenges, which we discuss during our conversation. Iwan says One Global Capital has a $1 billion pipeline of work that he is focused on to continue his vision of delivering city-shaping projects. This was a really interesting chat for me because way back when I started the podcast and I was thinking about people I would like to have on the show, Iwan was on the list. So it was great to finally be able to sit down and speak with him, particularly in light of the challenges he is facing. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy listening to Iwan's story and appreciate some of the lessons he shares. Let's kick off with our usual question of finding out what food Iwan would eat until he was sick.
It'll have to be gee, that has to be durian. The king of the fruit in Indonesia. I mean, that's the sort of thing that Indonesian or Asian people love to eat, but just make sure that you don't bring it to your hotel because it's so
Stinky, isn't it?
unbelievably smelly. But it's so much sugar and alcohol in it that when you eat enough of it, you'll go sick the next day. But it was something that you're not gonna get better, but you just eat it because it's part of your growing up habit. But only Asian people seems to like it. I think the non-Asian seems to go, oh my God, the smell of it. But it is a king of the fruit. Accordingly, it's expensive.
Yes, I've heard that. That it is very stinky, but it is very good if you can get past the smell.
That's right. Yeah. Well, for us, the smell is wonderful. It was just like, especially the durian from Bangkok. It was like the king, the Musang king. That was the expensive one, very expensive.
Well, you've already given us a nice little intro into the fact that you grew up in Indonesia. So give us a little bit of background about yourself. Where did you grow up, and how did you make your way into property? And then we'll move into your projects and some of your other experience, because you have gone on to do some pretty big projects and have pretty grand ambitions. So it'd be good to cover that.
Well, I was born in Surabaya in East Java. I mean, and then but my dad business was in Kalimantan, Borneo, and many of you probably know the Sarawak, which is the Borneo, the Malaysian part. But I am on the southern side of Borneo, which is called Kalimantan, which is actually quite famous for its orangutan rehabilitation. One of the famous Canadian doctor wrote a book and rehabilitated a lot of these orangutan that were captured. And I was part of that growing up. So going to this reserve, it was just amazing experience. And it's actually quite famous where Julia Roberts went to visit there. I understand Tony Blair also visited that place there. So that's the place, and it was actually quite beautiful growing up in Kalimantan because my house was, I always said that, I mean, when we kind of in Sydney, Australia said, well, our house is waterfront, I said, it's nothing, my house is on the water. It's actually on the water. Even the toilet was on the water. That's a luxury that we live. I always joke. I know it's always getting a bit too far in here, where I said my toilet is the most ecologically sustainable toilet in the world, because it's where you kind of let go your biological waste, and the small fish eat that thing, and the bigger fish it's a smaller fish, and the crocodile eats that, and that's how the whole ecosystem works. But that's the sort of upbringing that I grew up. My house was made out of the iron timber, the timber iron bars. It lasted long because when you put that timber under the water, it actually lasts really, really long time. So our house was made out of on top of the pole, and the back of the house was jungle. But of course, 30, 40 years later, when I left, which is about 12, I spent there about 12 years of my life there. But after that, when I came back, probably about 10 years ago, it was completely a different place because the what used to be a beautiful river with a bit of that darker color, iron bark color, become a muddy water because of the timber logging, because of the palm oil plantation, and the gold mining over there. So all the water becomes like the clay color, muddy water. But it's still like, for me, it was amazing upbringing. So my dad then my dad expanded his business from Kalimantan, from inter-island shipping, to then expand his business to Surabaya, which is East Java. And then I studied there for about the next 6 years. And then I went to Sydney after my accident in Bali that almost took my life, and I studied architecture. I started first in the TAFE of Randwick TAFE, year 12, and then I did my architecture after that for the next 5.5 years. So when I got graduate of bachelor degree, and then I continued to do my master of construction management, and then that's in 1992. I finished that, and then I started building my architecture company in 94. In 96, we started to do our first development in the Crown Group banner, and then later on growing that business over time to become where it was before, and then later on expanding the business into Sky Suites Hotel, the Grand Retail, and then establishing the One Global Capital Resorts and Residences brand the last 3 to 4 years. So that's probably been the journey in a snapshot of 30. Well, I live here in Australia more than half of my life here, so I'm an Aussie. So I'm more Aussie than I'm Indonesian in a way.
Well, you mentioned, how did you end up in Australia? You said you had an accident, or?
I had an accident in Bali, but my dad always planned for for his children to go to Australia. Somehow he kind of prepared us before that. He give us kind of like private tutorial in English, get us a teacher for that. But he always has in mind to say, look, Indonesia is great, but Australia, he believes it's an even better place because I think in his context is he saw Kalimantan being good, but Surabaya is better, Jakarta even better, Sydney has to be better. And so that's how he sent us to Australia. And they said, don't come back. It's like, don't come back, build it up there. It was after 5 years, I think I said to Dad, Dad, like, this is really hard. Like, I don't have the contact guy. I remember at the 5th year, I was barely paying myself like 70 grand salary, and I was not making money yet on that time. But that was kind of, like the wisdom of the old age, being patient. Just he said, you're doing well, you can pay yourself already. And so, oh, thank you. Can I come back? I said, no, you stay there and just continue to grow it, because there's no point for you to come back to Indonesia. I'm here, I can build Indonesia, but you guys continue to do to do what you need to do in Australia. So my oldest brother Nissan and me, my oldest brother ending up into the same trading business as him, like trading paper for newspaper, like recycled paper, and then he gets into the cattle farm, like buying a land in Darwin, about 3 times the size of Singapore. I'm probably the only one. Well, I'm not the only one. I'm not probably. I am the only one in the family that doesn't follow his step. But that does not dictate to where I want, what we want to be or what I can be. So I follow my passion. I mean, I love architecture, I love drawing, and I love building, and I love aeroplane kind of thing. But and he does not dictate. And even after 5 years of building up business, it doesn't really ask me, how much income do you have? Are you okay? Do you want to come back to Indonesia? Do you want to have that? And gee, but it was interesting, just because when you were building your business and you're starting to compare yourself to your friends and your family members who's already bought a new house and you haven't, and you're still living in this 4-bedroom house with a single bathroom and barely making money out of it. And I mean, of course, there are times where you feel like giving up and you feel like, gee, am I doing the right thing? And then you're starting to venture into other business, and only to know that you are not very good at it and come back and do what I'm good at. But it was almost Dad that kind of said, look, just look after everything that you already have. Don't let it go. It's easy to look at everything else that are out there that looks shiny, but you're doing well in your architectural business. Because at that time I set up my architecture business, then I set up my building business, and then I get into development, which at the end, I guess I consolidate the whole thing to just become a property developer. But it was Dad that kind of said, look, just look after what you have in your hand and just keep growing it. You're doing well. Okay. And I'm glad that he did, like, I mean, I think I start seeing some profit at the 6-7 years of my business, and I'm starting to see stability. But the first 5 years, it was just reinvestment of your money into the business, technology, system, people. All the money goes into employing better people, better system, better CAD machine. Yeah, that better things, but not much for the family. But I guess we kind of like, we're okay with that as a family.
And tell us about the first project. What did that look like? What was your thinking about moving into property development as opposed to just sticking to architecture?
Okay. So pre-graduation, it was first project is a fence that I did for my family member who moved from Hong Kong, and I took the photo the other day. It was that's a $20,000 fence that I did. Second job of that, it was a bathroom renovation. Third one is my own bathroom, and I kind of forget to put the waterproofing. And of course, 5 years later, you said, "Shit, where's all this leaking coming from?" And gee, I didn't put the waterproofing. I'm trying to imagine to rip off the whole tiles in the bathroom. And when you have only one bathroom in the house, so how are you going to do that? You just can't. You just live with it. You repaint the back section, put a bit of waterproofing, but after every 1 or 2 years, it failed. The first breakthrough was when I finished graduating my Bachelor of Architecture while I was doing my master degree. By that time, I think I accumulated enough skill in terms of doing a single house. But I get lucky there, like people trusting me, a family member that becomes shareholders later on for the last 3 jobs that I have trusted me to do their first house. They were a big manufacturing company from Indonesia into textile. The family kind of trusted me, and wonderful family, like those people who lend you the trust that gets you started. So it's a $500,000 water view in Dover Heights in the eastern suburb of Sydney. I did the house, and you learn all your mistakes, but you also learn so much about feng shui. You learn about the steps of the house, the 17 steps. You learn about that you don't put toilet in front of the front door because it's a bad feng shui. All of the things that you learn about when you try to divide the room into too many smaller spaces, it actually looks really awful because it looks small. And you learn about material. You don't put galvanized steel outside on the saltwater environment because it's going to rust, and then after that, it's going to be a nightmare to fix it, kind of thing. But I was fortunate that I did the house, and still today they were very proud of the house. I mean, that was 30, 40 years ago, right? 30 odd years ago. And then it leads into a job in the north, one house that leads into 5 houses in that area because they love my design. And then I get my first breakthrough after about second year of setting up my architecture company to do 15 units in the North Sydney in Chatswood. And I won the job against a 15 people company when I was only one-man band, working from my kitchen room that I turned it into an office where I have my first draftsman there. I just simply run feasibility study to show them that they're going to make more profit by doing a different style of unit, a different type of unit. And I won the job there from there. And that's where the foundation of the getting into the high-rise density living development. And then in 1996, after about 1 or 2 years of first capital raising was like $500,000, and I couldn't get a job, and then I lit it up to $1 million, couldn't get a job. But the first job I raised up $5 million. That was in 1996 in Bonnet Junction. $28 million job, 54 units development. But in that time, I did pull in a skill set that complete one another and don't compete with one another. In other words, that I'm the architect, the visionary, the people gatherer, my other business partner, real estate agent, the other business partner, civil engineer, and then the skill kind of complete one another and not competing. And that's something that I think that's why the business lasts for about 25, 26 years later without any joint venture agreement that existed. And growing from that business, we were doing just one job. Let's just do one job and see how you go. Then after that, we did the second job and we did well out of it. Well, first job, we raised $5 million and we made $5 million. So that's not a bad return, right? 100% profit within 2.5 years job. Second job, we made same thing. Like we put $3 million, we made $3 million. And then after that, we said, why don't we merge the whole operation and then form up the crowd. Not just form up, the Crown Group was formed up before that, but then continue to do that as an ongoing business partnership for the next decade. And that lasts for the next 8 years, Crown Group number 1. And then after that, the partners were saying, look, Iwan, you should really take more share because you were doing the job. I was actually 8.33% share. My dad lent me $650,000. I remember that, and he wants me to pay it back, which is really good. I think that's a good practice, because at the end, it's a family's money. So at the end of his life, he never really asked us to pay it back. We just become part of the will. But it was a good discipline that you know that it's a loan that you got to pay it back. It's a family money. So I'm doing the same thing with my kids now. Nothing for free. Everything's got to come back. If I give you an investment, you got to bring it back. But from there, first 8 years, and then the Crown Group grew to become $1 billion pipeline within 8 years. So from that first 54 units, and then the recession hits New South Wales in 2004. Some of the shareholders were not developer like me. I mean, some of them pull out. It's continued to grow from 8.33% to about 25 to 37%. It's somewhere about 20. No, in 2006 they pulled out. I did a job where I was 50% shareholders, and I didn't have the money. I actually didn't have the money to do that job. I mean, but that single job was the turning point for me, because we put a, I mean, it was a combination of a lot of things, right? Experience and leverage finance, buying well, add value, and sell well. That's a three formula that I always put into the business. You make money by buying. You don't make money by selling. You got to make sure that's location. You got to make sure that you can add value along the way, whether it's really replanning, redesigning, increasing the density, or branding. The final one, you got to make sure that you have the power to actually sell well. In other words, that the market is good for you. You get the strength in that market there. And we did really well. I mean, I think, and I don't know how I end up with that job there, Justin, because we only put $2 million and we made $40 million out of that job. So that was a turning point, because that's where I was 50% of the business. So that was Crown Group number 3. And number 3, so from 8.33% shareholders ownership for me, I moved to about 25%, and then I become 50%. And now I'm ready to the Crown Group, or the One Global Capital phase number 4, which is from private ownership to public ownership. So that's how kind of a bit of the story. After Newington, that job, that kind of turning point for me, or a tipping point, I did Top Right, a single $650 million development. We do make a lot of money out during that time. And the funny thing is, like, all of these jobs were really acquired during the toughest time. I actually didn't make money during the good time. I made a lot of money as a business during the toughest time. But that was, tough time when people are pulling out, and you got no choice, because I don't have any other skill. My business partner said, "Oh, let's get out from the property. The property market is bad. Interest is going to go up. The whole Asian market is going to collapse." I said, "You know what? It might be good for you because you know how to do restaurant, but I don't have a skill to run trading. I don't have a passion. My passion is simply property development." And so, in other words, that the worst that I can be in the property development is still better than what I can do in any other business. So I stick to it. And I'm really glad, Justin, that we did that. And because it was during this time, the hard time, where you learn to go deeper to learn, to shape up, to get better. And you learn to go into the ocean, wide, more challenging. But wait, what do you do if there's no more fish in the pond? You got to go out there to the ocean. And how do you go to the ocean? Well, the only way you do it is you scale up and scale up. You improve your skill, and you improve your scale, your size, and you go there. Which is fascinating. And then you find a way. And that was the Kalimantan learning, by the way, because my dad taught me it's the lesson of life in life. Like, it's either you swim or sing, right? In Kalimantan, they don't teach you training on how to swim. Mom and dad will put a rope on our body, and then they just throw it in the water, and you're just gonna, you got to do all of that. But you learn faster by doing things, and that was a lesson in life that I teach our people today. When I want to teach people, I said, slow is fast. Like, if I teach you everything, you'll be learning it 10% only. But if I get you to do it, and I know you're not gonna hate me, because it's, "Shit, Iwan, why are you giving me more job, more tasks, overtime?" But you know what? It will be faster for you, because you learn it much faster by doing things. And I've seen that happen in companies of my business partner, like Mitsubishi. Like, you see people who they brought in from high school day, university day, that were doing marketing or PR, that become the CEO. because they were rotating all of them to learn the different facet of life, different things that they need to learn, and then move people around. They expose them to different, completely new environment, and yet out of that, they become a more complete or more 360-degree leader system.
Yeah, well, I love that saying that you learn good habits in bad times and bad habits in good times. So, well, I'm keen to hear your thoughts about or where your inspiration comes from to tackle these bigger projects. Like it's one thing you could be doing 5, 6 townhouse developments, but you seem to have gotten bigger and bigger. So your vision has been growing and your ambition has been growing, or was it always there? Tell us a bit more about where that comes from.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because maybe it's partly my training as an architect because we are visual. We dream of things and we visualize things and we worry about how to build it after. That's not our problem, kind of thing. We just design Taj Mahal, we design Borobudur, we design Sydney Opera House. What about the budget? Well, that's your problem, kind of thing, right? How do you build it? That's none of my business. That's your problem there. I think maybe partly of that, really, because the architecture training taught us how to dream. But the drive of the financial goal for me was not really driven by so much about building big business or how much wealth that I have to acquire. It was actually driven in the early day and still continue to be driven by a different scale by how much money I can give back. So for a crazy reason that I can't explain is I just have this, when I started the business, I just had this in my mind to give $1 million away for a community. And it stick to my mind and of course if you want to give 1 million you better have more than 1 million, right? Because you can't give what you don't have, or you can't have 1 million and give 1 million. You'll be dumb you do that, right? You'll be like, it's maybe not dumb, but it'd be wrong, because how are you going to grow? How do you protect your business if you just give everything away? But that was really the drive. And later on, the 1 million grows to about 20 million. And today I am driven by giving a certain amount of money as a fund in perpetuity. It was actually inspired by one of the 4 major banks were giving. They were giving a significant amount of money in their probably 50 years of their anniversary, and as a fund in perpetuity. And my vision was stretched because of that. But I loved that because it was giving me a clarity to what I wanted, what I needed to be. It gives me a goal at the end, and I kind of learn in life that the number one thing that we have to set is always our goal, because our vision precedes our provision. In other words, our provision follows our vision. If you don't have a vision, you're not, there's no, like, you don't know what to do. And I think, like, I learned also, like, big vision, big action, small vision, small action, no vision, no action. That was me. Like, that was me in the high school day. I have no vision. And I just end up with just whatever mark that I can get. It was like 5 or 6. But when I moved to Sydney after the accident that I had in Bali, I kind of thought, I want to be the best that I can be. So not the best that somebody else can be, just the best I can be. But why wouldn't I be the best in the university? So that changes how I do things, changes my network, changes my habit. So I changed my habit by becoming very, very disciplined, the most studying, going to library, how much time that I have to play. Like, I love playing like Nintendo and all, but I set about 2 hours every week. The rest of them is library, networking with friends, catching up, learning. And within a year, from not knowing how to do architecture, I was learning rapidly. And then 3 years later, I was one of the best, if not the two best students in the uni. So that goal, that was really what drives me. And so it's not so much about how much money, but as an architect, it's starting to drive me from building a house to building many houses to building 15 units, 30 units, and then you do units, and then you go beyond. Gee, it would be nice to actually build retail underneath that. And then now we're building retail, we're building a hotel. Then my dream is, as an architect, as a developer, is to build a city. And I'm not there yet, just like, it's a long way. There is opportunity, like with the Indonesian government right now, where they've been approaching me to look at working collaboratively with them. But I did ask them, can you look at a 500 hectares land in Jakarta to build a city of the future? A city that is not built on the foundation of buildings, but the city that is designed to be built on the foundation of education. Why couldn't Indonesia, for instance, be the center of brain power there? Because it's 275 million people, and after all, Asia is where the 51% of the rising medium income wealth of the world are rising, and the combined economy of Asia is much bigger than the combined economy in Europe. So you're starting to see new trend, but new cities movement there. I mean, that's probably what drives me every day. So I go traveling around the world, not looking anymore into building units, built to rent and the like, but I look at how cities are being planned, how cities are being designed, what makes a city, what makes a great city, most of all, right? Just because it's not just building another city, but so I traveled to Songdo, to Korea, to see the city of the future. I traveled to Stanford to just see how in the middle of almost nothing there, they can become the brain power of the world. Just really fascinating for me. So that's probably what drives me to continue to look at things and to grow the business.
And one of the interesting points I wanted to touch on with you was that at some stage in the not too distant past, you experienced a business hiccup where there were some issues with your business partners. I'd be really interested to hear whatever you're prepared to share, what happened, what led to that, and how you've responded and what that's meant for you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think look, I mean, I had hiccups along the way. I mean, I think in life, the reality is that we do have small hiccup that leads into the bigger one that prepares us into maybe the next one. It's almost like a training in life. It's all of that. I mean, when I look back, it's a test designed for us to pass and not to fail. So if we just stick to it and find a way, you'll pass the test and you get ready for the next one. I mean, think about somebody who struggled at school. Like that was me. Like I was the worst in school and fighting against the failure and failing 1 year in the high school in Indonesia was a big embarrassment to the whole family and to myself. So you overcome that and you said, you know what, failure is not final. And it actually taught you how to bounce back. And yeah, you can always bounce back. You can only get better, right? And then going to University of New South Wales, being like struggling with the English and the philosophical word in architecture, but managed to overcome that at the fourth year. And then from there on, I was all the way like getting the highest mark in the uni in design. And then setting up the business with $50,000 income in the first year. How do you do that? How do you turn it into the big vision that I have? I mean, with that network, with that skill, because I never really worked for anyone else other than for Philip Cox Richardson Taylor about 6 months after my graduation. So I didn't have all the training that I need to be, but it was just I thought that I'm just gonna find good people around me, and I'm just gonna get them to work with me or for me, kind of thing. So as we build a business at Crown, it was I think I called them a golden year, 25 years of prosperity from growing that $5 million capital injection within, and we made a fortune, right? And then we've done well, but not just the fortune in terms of like things. We've gone through a difficult time, but we've also done so well in terms of creating an amazing machine, amazing teamwork, amazing product, and I think I can be proud of there. But I think I'm realistic enough that somewhere about 7 years ago that this business is no longer working. You're starting to see things that are almost, I mean, it's like anything in life, any partners do not last forever. No empire lasts forever. And I kind of starting to see, you know what, I was looking for a peaceful solution where I said, look, guys, I did reach out to my business partner 7 years ago. I think we really want to make sure that we protect our legacy, that why don't we find a way to just split nicely? You take this and I take that, or otherwise we put everything in the market. You do what you need to do and I do what I need to do. And because after all, your kids are growing up, my kids growing up, who's going to be the leader next? Of course, every parent will think that their kids will be the number one, right? And we made a decision quite a while ago that the business partnership does not last beyond me and him. It's not a family business. It's not about bringing a family, uncle and aunties and wife and children into the business, because I know what it's going to end up with, right? So that was 7 years ago. I'm starting to see the divergence of the business, and then I think about 2 years ago, it's starting to escalate. But no, 3 years ago, it's starting to escalate even more, and nothing, and the business is almost stopping at a halt, really. It was okay still because we're still selling, we're still doing things, right? But 2002, when the whole business just crashes, right? Because he kind of thought that the legal pathway is the way to get it to a decision making, and instead of finding a peaceful solution through mediation or a fair way to get out, or really put everything in the market, we all move on, right? He thought that, he commenced legal action. That was November 2022. That was challenging, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure that in the context of people, when credit crunch hit you, you don't have sales and construction stops. Like, I mean, just imagine after you build your life, and the whole entire my life is building my identity, my future kind of thing. It's crap, sky. I run the whole business from except for the construction that kind of partly reporting to me, but everything else from sales acquisition to development to funding to sales, marketing, leasing, hotel division, retail division, buying side, running visibility study, getting fund, like doing structured joint venture deal. All of them is run by me, right? So when that happened and you're ready to go into the path of the new development, that needs money too. How are you going to deal with that? Because all your big business are actually captured into the year. And of course, it was hard. Initially, it was like, what? But when business are no longer in harmony, it's no longer logic, it's emotional. Most people will then starting to approach it where it's no longer about being fair, and everyone will try to take advantage one another. But it took about probably, he made an offer to me at a certain dollar, and within 2 months, I kind of come back to him and I offer him 3 times of this amount. And I thought, well, if you think that amount is fair, I'll give you 3 times of that, 300% of it, and I'll settle within 2 months, and then we move on with our life. And of course, the offer that he made was ridiculous, and he wasn't willing to let go. So, but you get better after a while. You go through the dip of your valley, and then you kind of learn a few things, and some of the things that I learned, it was really just to learn to make sure that even in the heat of your battle, go and travel somewhere, right? Go and have a break. Go outside your tent and just go outside, and we did that in April 2023. And it is actually a lesson that I learned from my business mentor that mentored me in the first year of my architecture business. I asked him the question, when things go really hard in your business and things are really tough, right? Or what do you do? He said, look, I travel around the world. I said, what? Don't you think about your cash flow? Don't you think about what could go wrong? He said, Iwan, what good does it do when I'm really not thinking? Like, it's useless for me to be in the company. I'm actually going to make worse decision because I'm already tired. I'm depressed. I'm tired. I travel around the world. So let me do that, right? So I said to my wife, pack up. 2 days time, we're going to go to Japan. For all our life, we've traveled to Japan so many times, but we've never really seen sakura, like in our life, like real sakura in Japan. So I said, let's find that. And of course, it was almost towards the end of the sakura season. And when we packed up, we go there and we just go to whatever we can afford. Because when you're in the heat of the battle, you make sure that all costs are shrunk rapidly, because, you can't continue fighting if you continue to bleed. So we did, and that 15,000, 20,000 steps every day was the biggest breakthrough for me. And I learned that the simple power of just make yourself so tired physically that your brain can no longer function. And at night you sleep. And sleep is so important that it breaks the depression cycle. And first night, I didn't sleep well yet. But second day, after 15, 18,000 steps, that day you sleep through. The next 4 days, I came out from there and I starting to breathe again, and I starting to see perspective in a different way. I came back, and then I changed my lawyer. I call them lawyer up, just instead of instead of complaining about how expensive the lawyer is. When you get into the heat of the legal battle, you have to lawyer up. You have to get the best. You have to get the biggest and the best, like the most experienced people. So I changed my lawyer in that time and scale up the whole thing. And I put about 4 or 5 lawyers in the room, and we brainstorm. We come out with the ideas. We put strategy in place, and then after that, it was just it was just winning the battle, every legal battle, and then and that was so it was an interesting thing that you starting to change perspective. You're starting to get better at it, and then I thought to myself, look, I can't really stop. I can't complain of what people do. I can only improve myself. There's no point of you complaining about what you think that should have been done well, what should have been fair, because I'm sure the other side thinks that I'm also doing the wrong thing, like, oh, we should be this. And no matter what it is, it doesn't matter what people think. At the end of the day, that I have to skill up, but I also have to scale up rapidly. So I did. So, and then that was the lesson in life in 2004 during the recession of New South Wales, when you can't sell anything and your building cost is too expensive and whatever you do does not work and your overhead still continue. What do you do? How do you deal with that when every month that you can't sell, every month you're losing money? In that time, I was losing money like $100,000 a month, which is not a lot in the scale of Crown today, right? I mean, but what do? You just get better at what you're really good at, really. You just don't give up on doing good at what you're doing really good. So I did the same. So I did the same thing here. I actually just do exactly what I did for the last 25 years, and to do what I'm really good at, not trying to do anything different, not trying to change out my job. No, I did try. I was looking at it. I was tempted to it. And I thought, gee, how do you start with almost nothing? When I said nothing, is I still have a lot outside, but not at the scale that I needed to be at the Crown Group level, where you need hundreds and hundreds of million. But now looking after somewhere about August 2023, the whole breakthrough came, and then suddenly all this provision, all this funding flowing through, jobs are beginning to open up. And to actually reflect back and to say, it was exactly what happened 25, 20, 30 years ago. It was that you can create wealth out of nothing if you got the skill in the French people. If you know how to do things and you just focus on doing it well and just doing one job at a time, and just don't worry about the future. Like, yes, you got to think about the future, but just live by the moment and just do this thing and focus on what you can do and just do it well there, because tomorrow you never know. And then you can start saying, I mean, during this fight, I can start seeing that the other side starting to make some, call it silly mistake, and I starting to see, wow, strategically it was wrong, bang, 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 and I was just making strategically right decision, correct decision, and I'd start building relationship again to people. And that was also the second part of the learning, that when you are not doing well and you're not, you feel like you've lost it all, go out and meet people, because there's a lot of people that that will inspire you, that you just need to get out there, travel, 15,000 steps, lots of friends, and especially smart friends, because they'll tell you, and you just bounce it, like you just hear it, and you don't have to make a decision to every one of them. And within 1.5 years now, because the legal fight started in November 2022, and now it's March 2024. It's almost like 1.5 years. I never thought that I could rebuild the whole business rapidly to where it is now. Structure, system, and now we're basically rebuilding the whole structure. It's almost like rebuilding of Dresden, after the bombing. It was just you build better thing, better system, more efficient thing, better structure, better thinking, fresher ideas. And I posted the other day or yesterday, and I thought, to think back, that what I thought I would have lost everything to only realize how blessed I am, and to even think about like within not just 1.5 years that I could rebuild the whole thing and build a new, not just the new team. There are a lot of people that are very, very good people that stay very professional during this, the heat of the fight, the legal fight and liquidation. But it was thinking back that, wow, I mean, 25 years ago, the pitching of money that I raised up, it was $5 million from people who put in 250,000, 500,000, $2.5 million. I mean, now I I was privileged to deal with people who were saying, look, $500 million is the way we start. Anything less than that is actually not exciting, because not that I think that 50 to 100 million is not a lot of money, but it doesn't fulfill the vision that I'm looking for. It's and there are system processes that's already there. Yeah, so to look back, and I said, am I grateful? Yes, I'm grateful to what has happened. So in a way that I learn now that every test in life is a test for us to pass. So now I learn to live, or the third lesson I learned is to live by the moment. You just basically take it, that everything is for good reason, and don't panic. I think it was Djokovic who says like nothing will stop us from our mind from wandering, because our mind, our brains are a wanderer. It's more about how fast you can come back to when you get a setback, and that's really the lesson. And I learned a new habit now, just in the last one year, that I do not, when I do meet with people, I do not look at my phone again. Before that, it was awful. I was flicking thing. I would be talking to you. I'll be responding to here and there. And it was actually not productive, because I was making decision in a rush. I was just making decision when I'm tired. I was making decision when I'm, like when people are tired, they feel like giving up. So you make fast decision instead of sticking to the focus. So now there's no turning back. It's almost like unstoppable, and actually goes so much faster than I thought. It was amazing, and I'm just excited, and I'm excited about the whole thing. I'm excited about where we're going as a company.
Well, I know you've just written a book called From Borneo to Bloomberg, which I'm sure outlines some of your lessons, but I'm keen to learn or to hear what you think you've learnt about yourself, particularly over the last, say, 18 months during all of this.
Wow, that's um, I think I learned that, like don't ever lose your vision, and if you, like, because life is like a journey to your vision or to your goal is almost like climbing up a mountain. That what you need to do is just, sometimes you need to stop and just acclimatize, but you just gotta keep going. If you just get one more step higher, you'll get there one day. And you just and one of the things that completely changes me before was I was always full of doubt before, Justin. While I was building Crown, every launches that I have a lot of doubt. Like I have a lot of doubt that, gee, after you spend $4 or $5 million launch preparation, display unit, brochure, perspective, I mean, state of the art perspective kind of thing, the fly through $100,000. What if you fail, right? But that doubt oftentimes transpire or transmit to other people around you. And then you set your goal to say something and then you don't do it. No, I said, no, no, no. When I set a goal, I'm just going to pursue it. I'm just not going to back off. I'm just going to slowly, methodically, almost like a plumber, like a farmer who just plow the field. You just keep plowing the field. You may not see the seed, the buds rising up yet, or you may not see it. But if you just keep looking after your soil, keep plowing it and watering it, fertilizing it, you'll see it one day, and then you'll just keep doing that. I think that passion, but also the thing is that I now learn is like, wow, I am ready for the next lesson. So I kind of my book was From Borneo to Bloomberg, the comeback story. I am excited about the comeback story of me and reaching out to where I want it to be, because I want it to be the next level of my journey, was taking the company from being a private company or collaboration of partners to a public company. So we set a goal for the next 7 years to go public, and we set a goal of $5 billion as the numbers that we wanted to be listed. And now we're mapping it out in terms of how we get to 7 years. So board of advisors have been brought in, like significant CEO massive companies that stretches me all the time, and I want that governance system. I mean, the reason why I want to go public is because I love governance system, because I think its accountability is important. Yes, it may be slow, but it's safer. Like no man is an island to themselves. And then so the next 3 years is recruitment and training and testing the team, and keeping people that we already have. But a lot of my people are actually wanting to come back again with me. Like a lot of them are missing the fun, the excitement, and I appreciate them leaving me before because they do not want to get caught in the fire. They do not want to take side. Some people managed to because they were not part of the development. So in the context of Crown Inn, Justin, that it wasn't all a division that are struggling. It was the development that stopped. But the hotel that was under me with 30 people, 3 hotels, it's turning over $20 million turnover. 85-95% under the Sky brand was doing so well. The retail, unfortunately, getting into the crossfire, so retail income just declined. But the hotel is doing well, and the development stuck there. So, but and then after that, I want them to start running the company with me, with less supervision of me. First 3 years is more me on building it up. The next 3 years is really, after that is them running it, and then I get ready to go public in the 7 years, and that will be the next journey of the business.
Well, I'm sure it'll be an exciting one, and I'm sure you'll get there in the end. I'm curious to hear what your advice might be to developers who are listening in, who are wanting to take themselves to the next level. What your advice to them would be?
If you don't mind me speaking to the one that wants to start and not, or even the one that's doing it and not really sure, how do I do this? How do I position myself? How do I break through into this crowded market, right? Because you're not the only developer in the market. Gee, I mean, how do you create your own blue ocean, like the blue ocean strategy? The W. Chan book there. I coach a lot of friends, like in terms of like, how do they grow themselves? And I basically just really teach them very simple 3 steps in life. Number one is what I mentioned before, was always set your goal, the end goal there. But when you set the goal, is the first thing that you ask yourself is really, well, why do you want to do what you do? What makes you love building? What is your why Iwan is doing urban resort? Why can't I do something else, right? And I taught them about, like every one of us has what I call the shape, which is an acronym for S stands for strength and H is heart, A is ability, P is personality, and E is experience. Strength is really what you're born with, really. It's not something that you acquire. It's not something that you want it and you have it. You're born with it. So some people are gifted songwriter. You can't explain how they do that, right? Some people were just born with a gift of the gap. They just have that, like some people were just so good at politics. Some people are good at book writing. Some people like me, I like drawing, and I can see that some of my sketches probably here, right? So I sketches building, and I still do sketch building, like, because I just love it. Don't ask me why. It was almost like you're born with that spiritual strength there. And then the heart is really what your heart is telling you, because I think it's like Steve Jobs was saying that the only way to do great things is that if you love what you do. But your heart is often determined, almost dictated by your experience. So the experience often dictates where your heart is. In other words, that for instance, if like I have the heart to train younger generation leaders. Why? Because I came out from a struggling kids who struggled in the academic performance, who didn't do well in the first year of the business. So I always have the heart for it. We're building in our conference center, the One Global Conference in Green Square, the iconic building in Green Square. If you have the sky there's 1,000 square meter conference that my family office own. Well, we're going to set up social enterprise foundation to help kids with special learning needs to sell their artwork. So we're creating that entrepreneurship platform, teaching and learning. The reason for that is because our second kid, our daughter, Hannah, was born with autism. She comes out from it, and now she's doing artwork here and there. Because so whatever people like, parents with Down syndrome kids will always have the heart with kids with family with Down syndrome. People who come out from depression will always have the heart for depressed people. People who comes out from drug addiction will come out with that. So these are the things that makes you. And then so you set your goal, but then the second thing is that in life is really map it out, really. Just really map out, and then how do you get there, really? So it's always the what and why you do things. The second thing is about map it out really. And then the best thing, if you don't know how to get there, just talk to people about how to get there. The people that have been there, they can help you to map it out. How do you get from one point A to point B? So my meeting is always driven by that. Okay, guys, what's our vision? Why do we do what we do? How do we get there? And then the third thing is that the principle that I taught to people is you really want to see it through, you have to follow it through. Not only that you're committed to it, but it's also you got to communicate that to your team. So I'm big on WhatsApp group, right? Because that's the only way that I can follow through what we want to see through. We'll update people every day. We say, guys, we're going to launch $500 million building, right? Gee, well done. We've got the first 10 unit, $10 million. Because what often happens is people think that everybody has done something that they didn't. Therefore, because we don't follow through, we'll never really see it, and it's too late. And often people have, that vision and the mapping, but no one is measuring where we are, how far we are, how we go, and so that's really principle in life. It's really that just go back to that principle. Why do you want to do what you do? What makes you you? Remember, this is not about. So a friend of mine is saying this one. I love this one here because we often talk about USP, unique selling proposition in our life. What's our USP? But a friend of mine who is Oleg, his name skipped my mind. He was the vice president of Regent's Hotel, together with the Aman Hotel founder, Adrian Segar. So he said, you don't have to be different to be good, because if you're good, you're different. And I thought, it's so true, right? You can't be good at what you're not good at, or you can't be different to what you're not good at, but you can be good at what you're really good at. So I am an urban resort developer. I grew up in the jungle. I understand trees. I understand waters. I understand how nature's think. I can't do some of the amazing thing that I've seen in Brisbane, such as the Carlisle development, which is a very Mediterranean in its look and feel. I just don't understand. I don't live with that. But I grew up in this jungle, tree, water. And so I keep going back to that nature's water. And so I just become better and better at what I'm really good at. And I don't know what else to do with, because I try to be different with something else that I don't like. And I know I'll be doing it 50% of that. So that's probably the lesson that I kind of pass on, Justin, and just follow through. And in a way that there was a statement that says that the winners never quit and the quitters never win. So just keep going through, keep climbing up. If you need to rest for a moment, go and travel, I made a policy now. Everybody working on a company now must have a break every 4 months. Otherwise, because I know that they will be stressed out just like me, and they will not be functional. Once they are burnt out, they're useless for everybody. So I think that would be good for everyone's well-being in the company, and I'm sure for the leaders that we are building up the A-team for the next 7 years of our journey, Justin.
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to get into property development, you need to have a good dose of resilience to be able to soldier through.
Or anything, isn't it? Hey, anything. I was doing architecture. Everybody tells me that don't do architecture because it's a hard job. The salary is very low. It might be true, but if you're Zaha Hadid, it's different. If you're Frank Gehry, you're different. If you're Frank Lloyd Wright, you got jobs that you can't even do a job because everybody wants you. So in other words, that whatever we do, I think it was almost Steve Jobs that says that it's very hard out there if you don't do what you're passionate, because everybody else will tell you that you're wrong. But once we find our passion, once we find the why we do things, they can tell us it's wrong, but we love what we do. I think it was somebody asked me, what is passion? Passion is something that you naturally will do with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your spirit, without getting paid. That's your passion. If you know that, and then you just continue to speak out. In my book, I talk about find your voice and shout it loud. It's finding who you are and just tell the whole world. Because I had this system that I call them the 3C of the One Global Capital, which is really the core crowd community. In the center of everything is a movement. It's you. It's your heartbeat. It's what makes you you. It's not what makes you different. It's what makes you really good. And then you're just going to have to reach out your call and let the call reach out to the crowd, and the crowd get telling the community that do not know you. So once you know the passion, once you know what you are, that's all you do. It was I was yeah, it was interesting because many people do business without knowing this. I was on the weekend on Saturday, coached this family business that do a $6 million turnover, and I said, "Can I understand what your business company is called?" He said, "BAMS." Okay, what does BAMS stand for? Building and maintenance services. So I began to ask him, what does he do? He was a builder, mortgage by background, and talk about everything. I said, if you have to do three things, what would you do? And he started to blabber about, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing everything. I said, I know you can do everything, but you can't do everything that is good, right? And the thing is that you got to learn is that nobody remember more than three things. Like you don't remember more than three things. And that's why Steve Jobs is very smart. Like when he talks about, I'll tell you three things. And I know it's three musketeers, like Huey, Dewey, and Louis. It's just three things. And everybody that's saying, I'll give you five key to success, I'll forget about it after three. And it was just the way that, liquid, solid, and gas. It's just three things that are made up of everything in life. So I coached them about that. And then now we're starting to define, okay, at the end of that 2 hours, 3 hours, and the daughter was saying, like, very smart girl, like she's probably in her 30. She said, Dad, it took us 2.5 hours spending time with him on Saturday, taking his time to now know what are we. So we kind of discover BAMS is like building and maintenance services focuses on commercial fit out, security, and hygienic maintenance. That's all you do. I said, you don't tell any more than that three, then you just define that. I know you can do a lot of things, but just being a specialist, focus on that three things. That's the way. And then so we're starting to define him because I said, I taught them that branding is not about telling 1,000 things to one time. Branding is about telling one thing 1,000,000 times to everybody, because don't forget that we're not the only brand. The moment that we woke up, we were exposed to so many brands, cigarette, television, Samsung, iPhone. You're branded by 1,000 brands that come in to hit your mind. You need to be the one brand. And that's the reason why the One Global Capital, this one thing that I do. I do property development. I love what I do. So we're going to build to rent soon because we've scaled up our people from hotel operation of know how to do retail. So I grew the retail, not because I want to be Westfield. I want to be the king of residential development. And the hotel was part of this branded where residences where luxury can be handcrafted. In other words, can be tailor-made. So it's a new way. I know people are traveling a lot more, but therefore they need their house to be cleaned up while they're traveling. And the last thing they want is a house that is untidy, or the fridge that is frozen or not working and the mitts are going banana kind of thing. So, but it stayed true to what I'm really good at, the urban resort. I'm good at residential. My experience has been that I grew up with my dad making the roof, the roof for houses. My grandfather that I grew up in Surabaya made this amazing furniture of antique furniture where you slot in so many cases in it. So, and he was one of the best in his town there. So somehow my life was divined with my ship being a residential developer. So office and the like, they're just part of this vision of creating a multi-generational living and mixed-use density development that I believe is the big thing in the future.
Well, Iwan, I'm sure if people want to find out more about your story, they can grab the book From Borneo to Bloomberg. But if they want to find out more about you online, where should they head?
I think they'll just go to One Global Capital. Otherwise, just follow my Instagram because that's really where I share leadership. I share what I learn, my friends that inspire me, lessons that I learned from them. The Instagram probably the simplest one, but otherwise LinkedIn will be a great one.
All right. Well, it's been so awesome talking to you. I think I mentioned to you when we were first talking about coming on the podcast that when I started the podcast, whatever it was, 6, 7 years ago, I wrote down a list of people that I would love to have on the show, and your name was amongst that. Was a
Wow.
somewhat small list back then. So I'm really excited that I've finally had an opportunity to chat with you, and because I really admire what you've done and what you continue to do. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm a product of Australian too, the sort of the can-do spirit, the fair income, and always questioning what you do. I mean, I was the beneficiary of that. So I'm grateful to be part of your story here. Yeah, well done for what you do.
Thank you. Have you got any last parting comments or anything you want to share or a request of the audience before we let you go?
I think let's continue to build building that live legacy. A building should not really last only for 50 years. Great building of the world becomes better and more valuable over time. That buildings are not about materials, not about fashion, but buildings is made unique or amazing because of its space, its experience, or how you experience the building. So learn about how buildings engages the head, which is the intellectual side of our mind, like how intellectually you think about it and how it actually moves the heart that makes people happy, or depressed, or they're happy. And the thing is really, how can our building be spiritually uplifting when people say, wow, if that creativity can be made that way, I can do the same thing in my books and everything. So I like to think that as a development industry that we know that it's not just about building, but it's about building legacy for our next generation to continue. And that is not expensive because it was just about learning and understanding how space and architecture can be experienced.
Awesome. Well, Iwan, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure for me talking with you, and good luck getting to that IPO.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Property Developer Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips, ideas, and inspiration to take your developing to the next level. For more developing love, make sure to visit propertydeveloperpodcast.com.